All right, so ready to dig into a story that proves, well, sometimes truth is actually stranger than fiction.
Sounds intriguing.
We're talking heavyweight boxing, we've got tax evasion, and a backyard discovery that honestly would even make Blackbeard jealous, I think.
Wow. Okay, that's quite the combination. You've definitely got my attention.
It's a wild one.
Yeah.
So, at the center of it all, we've got this larger-than-life character. I mean, truly embodies the phrase, never a dull moment.
Okay, I'm Hook. Who are we talking about?
Derek Del Boy Chisora.
Del Boy. Okay, even if you don't follow boxing, that nickname has got to ring a bell.
Right, like instantly makes you think of that lovable rogue from Only Fools and Horses, right?
Exactly.
And let me tell you, Chisora, he lives up to that name. Just to give you a little taste, he once flipped a table at a press conference.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So we're talking about a guy with, let's just say, a bit of a reputation.
A bit. This is a guy known for his unpredictable personality, to put it mildly, both in and out of the ring.
All right, so set the scene for us. What went down?
Okay, so picture this. Gloomy morning, North London. We're at Chisora's place, and it's not exactly a modest little flat. We're talking like luxurious estate.
Okay, living the good life, it seems.
Right. So the man himself, he answers the door, and who's standing there? Not your average visitors. Officers from the Metropolitan Police.
Well, that's never a good sign. What did they want with Chisora?
So on the surface, it seemed like a pretty routine visit, right? A minor tax issue, that's what they said.
A minor tax issue. I've got a feeling this is where things take a turn.
You could say that, because what the police were about to uncover, let's just say it was anything but routine. We're not just talking like creative accounting here. This is taking tax evasion to a whole new level.
All right, you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
What exactly did Chisora do? This must be good.
Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Tax issues happens all the time. What's so unusual about that?
Well, yeah, that's true. But this is where things get really interesting. Like most of the time when we're talking tax evasion, it's all about like hiding assets.
Off the offshore accounts, those sorts of things.
Exactly. Or like setting up these super complicated shell corporations. You know, the kind of stuff you see in those financial crime movies.
Trying to make it impossible to trace the money.
Right, right. But Chisora, he went with something a bit more, how should I say it, hands-on, let's say.
Okay, you're going to have to stall this out for me. What do you mean hands-on tax evasion?
Picture this. A garden. A seemingly normal garden, right?
Okay, got it. I'm picturing it. What's so special about this garden?
Well, one of the officers, he's looking around, and he notices this one patch of grass. It looks off, like too perfect.
Too perfect, like freshly dug almost.
You got it. Freshly dug and way too neat, especially compared to the rest of the garden.
That's incredible. So just like that, one tiny detail, it can unravel everything.
It's often the little things, right? And of course, Chisora, being Chisora, he tries to play it cool, brushes it off, oh, that. Yeah, that's just me, bit of gardening.
Yeah, right. Like the cops are going to buy that.
Right. But they weren't buying it, not one bit. So what do? They grab shovels and they start digging.
Oh, man, the tension must have been through the roof.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
And Chisora, he's retreated back inside, acting all casual, but he's, peeking out the window, pretending to be completely absorbed by his tea kettle or something.
Trying to look busy, trying to look innocent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was all for show, because deep down, I bet he was freaking out.
I don't blame him. So what happens next? They're digging away, and then...
And then, thud.
They hit something. Don't leave me hanging here. What was it?
Not your typical garden gnome, I'll tell you that. No, what they found was a whole lot more interesting. Boxes.
Boxes. Like cardboard boxes. What was in the boxes?
Full of cash. And I'm not talking about a little nest egg here. We're talking stacks of bills.
Yeah.
Pounds, euros, dollars, you name it. It was in those boxes. All neatly bundled. Just like a pirate's buried treasure.
I'm speechless. That's insane. This wasn't just like a few thousand tucked away. This was...
Millions. Millions. Plural.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of it was mind-boggling.
So we've got millions of dollars in cash buried in the backyard. The police have literally just dug it up. This is going to be a tough situation to talk your way out of.
Yeah, you don't see that kind of money just lying around every day.
I mean, what happens next? I can't imagine what Chisora even says at that point.
Well, charm. It only goes so far, even with a personality like Derek Chisora's. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah, right? True. It's not like the police are just going to like, oh, all right, then carry on. So did he get hit with like a slap on the wrist or something?
Not quite. He got hit with what anyone would expect in this situation, a hefty fine, and penalties for tax evasion. The whole 9 yards. Yeah, that makes sense. I bet this whole thing was a field day for the media, though.
Oh, you already know it.
Yeah.
I mean, this story, it just blew up. Headlines everywhere. You couldn't escape it. Derek Chisora's buried treasure. Del Boy's million-pound garden. All over the place.
That's wild.
Some articles were all serious, condemning what he did, calling him out for trying to dodge taxes. But others, they were like celebrating him, like it was all one big joke.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing right now, isn't it? But it does make you think, is that the right message to be sending? Like, it's one thing to enjoy the story, but it's another to forget that tax evasion, it's a crime. It affects everyone.
That's a good point. You don't want to make light of it. Right?
No,
it's a balancing act for sure. But I think the most interesting thing about this whole thing, it's actually Chisora's own attitude throughout this whole ordeal. It was like he almost seemed unfazed by it all.
He's a real character, that's for sure. Like, nothing really seemed to faze him.
Exactly. Even when he was facing the consequences, that Del Boy spirit, that never went away. Like, here's this one story, right, after his court hearing. Reporters everywhere, cameras flashing, and Chisora, just completely deadpan, he says, "Next time, I'll buy a bigger garden."
He really said that. I love it. Okay, so we've talked about a lot, but what's the takeaway here? Like, what can we learn from Derek Chisora's buried treasure, besides the fact that sometimes real life is way more entertaining than any movie?
Well, for me, I think it's a good reminder that sometimes the most captivating stories, they're right there, hidden in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. I mean, who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
But this whole thing also kind of highlights, well, the importance of accountability. Even when we're talking about these larger-than-life personalities who really capture people's imaginations. It makes you wonder what was going through his head.
It makes you wonder if Chisora actually thought he'd get away with it, or was this all just, part of the Del Boy act, just playing up to his image?
Now, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And you know what? I bet even Chisora himself, maybe even he doesn't know the answer. And you know what? I kind of like it that way. Leaves us with a little mystery.
Definitely keeps things interesting. And on that note, I think we'll leave you all to ponder the enigma that is Derek Del Boy Chisora. This has been quite the deep dive, that's for sure.
As always, it's been a pleasure joining you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And remember, sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. Until next time, keep asking those questions and keep digging for those fascinating stories.